ready to make my pick.
All right. Well, we're ready to hear it.
I'm ready right
Bring
now.
it.
All right. I want to pick the Florida Mayhem.
Oh. Okay.
All right. I did not expect that.
That's a bold
I did not
one.
expect it at all. Maybe run us through the thought process here. Why did you go for the Mayhem?
Oh, they had a good showing today.
Yeah. We know.
And we wanted that rematch.
Yep.
And I'm really glad they're still in the tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I'm really glad we can.
I'm really hoping they have a good performance.
Okay, enough.
Come on, baby boy. What are you doing here?
Come on, for real. We're getting paid by the hour, baby boy. Can only have some.
Okay, no, but enough for real. Who are you actually picking?
The real pick is I really, really wanted this revenge match against Birdering.
Oh.
Okay.
So I'm gonna pick the LA Gladiators.
Okay.
Okay. You're confusing everyone and myself.
Should we bring in Doug Man? Like, what's happening here?
Any other teams which are out which you want to pick?
Okay. Actually, for real though. We are going to be picking the Toronto Defiant.
Oh.
All right.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Overwatch League. And yeah, as you heard, Baby Bay there was trolling our desk analyst. They 100% thought that Baby Bay was trying to pick teams that were already out. I would not hear otherwise. They absolutely got done there. And all the respect in the world to Baby Bay. And of course, it's the two teams we're going to be watching here: the Atlanta Reign versus the Toronto Defiant for our second quarterfinals.
I actually love Baby Bay. Yeah. He talks so much smack, like he uses his entire setup, not even to talk about Toronto, but just to roast the Mayhem and Gladiators for being knocked out in upset games. He is absolutely phenomenal. And the last game that they played, when they played against the Titans and when they played against Toronto previously in the regular season as well, he's just always talking smack throughout as well. I love this. Atlanta are the true gatekeeper team. They do not lose to teams that are underneath them in terms of the standings at any point, and so they have like this room to just talk trash.
Well, we've seen a lot of Genji being played, and actually Brady last night on the Watchpoint Post Show had a few things to say about his team's chances given that being the case.
Do you feel comfortable going into this matchup on the back of your Genji and your team's Genji? You guys look comfortable right now.
Yeah, I think this meta is honestly our best so far. I think during like the McCree May meta with like D.Va, we were looking pretty good, but I think since then this is our best meta. So if anything's gonna happen, now's the chance. Now's the time.
So there he is, yeah, Toronto's strongest meta ever. I'm inclined to agree with young Brady. Apparently we're on a first-name basis now. But he is looking very good at that one particular hero. Yeah. He's always been known for his Genji, but what's impressed me the most, actually, has been a lot of his neutral game. I believe yesterday, I don't know if the stats have been updated since then, but he was #1 in hero damage done.
Yeah, Agilities has been playing very well, and he played very aggressive as well. What I love, personally, is that at the end of the Toronto game, once they had upset the LA Valiant, the Toronto coach typed in the match chat, GG's, thanks for the warm-up. Thanks for the warm-up in an upset game. And then the coach for Toronto, Baroy, doubled down and tweeted afterwards saying that he must have mixed them up with a contenders team. I mean, this is spice. Toronto get just like a glimmer of success and they immediately start roasting their opponents. So we've got the Toronto coaches talking smack and Baby Bay talking smack. This is going to be an amazing match no matter who wins.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and you can see from the Toronto Defiant who they're rolling out with. I mean, it's everything that we've come to expect, of course. Notable players, of course, Numlocked and Cruz, but only because of their nationalities. Because they're both from the United Kingdom. So there you go.
Sure. No bias.
No bias whatsoever. They would have to put us on this cast, wouldn't they? The two Brits.
Sure.
But, yeah, there you go.
Agilities and Logics, though, are definitely going to be the difference makers if Toronto can come out with a win today. Agilities has to be getting huge value when he plays the Genji, and Logics must win the head-to-head against Baby Bay in terms of that long-range hit scan duel. And you look at the Atlanta starters, and there are some interesting things to look at here. For starters, they're running with Edison instead of Ursta, which seems to indicate that as we go towards our first map, they're going to be playing more Tracer rather than the Genji. But Fire is also
That is interesting.
And Fire, I think, has only played one map so far in the Overwatch League, which was Gibraltar, played against the Vancouver Titans last week when they 3-0'd the Vancouver Titans. I haven't really seen enough of the guy to be able to know what he's capable of, but that does mean that their shot caller in Massa is out.
And on the other side of things, of course, the tanks of the Atlanta Reign. One of the highlights has been Gator on his Orisa. According to the statistics, he's been putting up some good numbers in almost every category, which is, something to look for there. Of course, it's not just all halts, although they are probably one of the most important setups, I think, for the Orisa players, is connecting on the halts and finding opportunities for your team with it. But it doesn't hurt when you're putting up good numbers as well. And as for the maps, well, we're going to be heading into Busan as the first one. That's where the teams are going to be clashing, of course. And this was the Atlanta Reign's pick, as they are the higher seed. Number 2 seed coming into the Summer Showdown. Very high up, winning a lot of their games.
Yes, but crucially, those games were against lower opponents. Atlanta so far this year have not beaten a single team that is power ranked as a good team. They are the classic gatekeepers. They are just the most stereotypical gatekeeper team that I've ever seen in esports, actually, because they 3-0 every team underneath them, and they have not won a single match against a team that is power ranked above them at that point in time. Now, in this game, they are definitely the favorites. They are coming in here expected to win, and so what they are looking to accomplish is another 3-0 victory over the Toronto Defiant. They've beaten them 3-0 3 times before so far in 2020, and this is hopefully for them going to be another one to add to the equation.
Yep, it's should be a lockout for the Atlanta Reign, realistically speaking, especially when you look at those numbers. Now, sometimes the seeding lies, but in this case, I think it could be quite accurate. You can see Toronto did not have a great seeding coming into this tournament, but it's what they can do with it that counts now that they're finally in this position here in the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
And as long as they take the opportunities that are given to them, there's no reason why they can't go far.
That's true. I want to talk a little bit as well about just Toronto's ability yesterday when they played against the LA Valiant, because I felt they were playing very slow-paced. They were quite a slow team, and so I would really be looking for them to improve that so far today, to really try and take advantage and initiative in a lot of these engagements.
The teams are going to start to roll out, and as you see it, there's young Brady, Agilities, playing that Genji, something that he's known for quite well. A lot of damage being pumped in from either side here, as you can see Baby Bay just sending in shot after shot after shot. But look at that damage from the Dynamite. They are all so low on the Atlanta Reign side. Agilities of 250 HP, gets a nice dash off into 2 targets. The Reflect is there, but eventually going to be stunned out of it. This could be an opportunity for the Toronto Defiant to try and work off. They got some very low players here, and Logic's immediately with a quick bob sends him up. The Dynamite not going to be connecting, just about misses it here. Logic's trying to find an opening. He's going to get hunted down in the back line as Edison is there with the Tracer. So a successful first team fight there from the Atlanta Reign. Get the opening pickoffs that they need just to flip the point into their favor.
Toronto got a lot of damage off, you're totally right, but then they overchased. They thought that they would be able to get off a couple of kills, and Numlocked and Agilities went a little too deep, and it was Numlocked that ended up dying. Now a rally's going to come out for the Atlanta Reign as they try and push their advantage a little further forward. Agilities tries to turn it around.
He's going to use that blade, forces out the Immortality Field, but he doesn't get much else out. He tried to bring down Cruz, or Cruz ended up using a rally, I should say. Fire still holding his issues in the previous fight, but now you can see the Forbidden Cloak is going to be utilized pretty late here by Nevix. No follow-up there from the Toronto Defiant. Atlanta Reign playing perfectly around it, using that amplification matrix, just pumping the damage from afar.
Agilities used his dash too early in that fight, and so he was kind of stuck in that awkward position where you're a Genji with your blade out, but you have no way of getting closer to the enemy team. You need to be very careful with when you use your dash in these engagements, because Atlanta have halts, they have bashes, they have accretions as well. A lot of stuff that can slow you down or displace you. Now Atlanta are going to continue to make the Toronto Defiant punish. Make them pay for trying to come in through that choke point.
Yeah, and that's so hard to push through as well. Even if you have the Immortality Field, like, a good team is just going to focus fire. And Edison, I mean, he probably didn't need to use that pulse bomb, but it's going to be buying him extra seconds, especially as he gets that tail end kill onto Agilities. Edison having a bit of a subtle carry game thus far. He's always been in the backline, always been pumping in the damage, and always been cleaning up a lot of the kills where the damage is being applied by Atlanta.
Busan is a very good map for the Tracer Ash kind of style, so I can see why Edison will get fielded here.
They spot him out.
Yeah, he gets forced away. But that's allowed Toronto in a little bit, and they do have to be able to work with. Oh, Logix!
Okay, Logix. Yeah, that's that Dynamite damage that's going to take down Edison, and he follows it up with a quick little 1-2 as well. Make it 3. Nicely done, and that should be a flip, realistically speaking. that many pickoffs is hard to come back from, and it will indeed be the Toronto Defiant at least getting this capture for the first time in this map.
And because the Toronto Defiant clutched that basically on the back of Logic's getting picks, they didn't have to use that many ults either. Just a single amp matrix, which is great for their ultimate economy. We have seen teams come back from these situations. 99-0.
Play by Agilities. The holt's there, but there we go.
Dash
Sam
is
to
perfect.
connect. Bay falls. Can he get any sort of kill? The heals are currently being applied to Gator. They can't bring him down, but finally they just dive onto him. They need to be proactive. They need to take the initiative here. Finally, they do just that. So much damage being just sent straight into them. Logic's dynamite has burnt them all down. And they are going to hold on to this point for the time being.
That was a lovely engagement from the Toronto Defiant. Agilities goes deep, uses his dash, the perfect timings, and all of the damage that he did was followed up by the rest of Toronto, plunging deep. I love that they're taking the initiative in these fights too. Now the ult economy a little against them, but Nevix, I think, has to be proactive with this Gravitic Flux. He needs to land a big Gravitic Flux early on as they come through the choke. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard.
Going to be very tough. You can see this total rotation here by Atlanta. The Flux is used now at the choke point, but not before the Bob is traded out. Post bomb on the side! How does Logix die to that? Just sat there looking at it, sat on it like a hen on an egg. Now you can find that the Atlanta Reign have been given every single opportunity in the world to work their way into this point. Edison in the back line, zipping, zooping all over the bloody shop. The Atlanta Reign now, as the overtime starts to burn, are going to find themselves in a solid position to take this first round away. Map number 1, no one able to touch, and there it is. The Atlanta Reign, pretty dominant from them, but the Toronto Toronto Defiant, I should say, showing signs of life.
Yeah, signs of life for sure, but Edison towards the end of that fight. Like I said, Nevix needed to play aggressive with his Gravitic Flux, but he also needed the follow-up from the rest of his team. So where were the rest of his team? They were getting harassed by Edison constantly, getting damaged and then getting pulse bombed, and the rest of the Toronto Defiant just could not push forwards. So nice Gravitic Flux, but absolutely no follow-up.
You'll be heading over to a section of Busan now with a lot of high ground to be utilized.
Yeah.
Could be quite good for the Toronto Defiant if they take advantage of it. Obviously,
Long sight lines as well. Logix and Baby Bay are going to be battling for supremacy.
that's completely correct, yeah, on the hit scan rolls. And start to see them now rolling out, and it's going to be the Atlanta Reign again, sticking with their Tracer Ashe composition, something that we've seen teams kind of move away from as time has gone on, realizing that Genji might be more proficient. See this battle that's going on between the Ashes. It's so difficult to try and hit any sort of shots. The AD spam going on. Edison trying to find an opportunity.
Agility's going very weak there.
Yeah.
They've actually forced out Immortality Field as well from the Atlanta Reign, and now they're doing a lot of damage to them. They can just engage fast here, because the Immortality Field was used so early on from Dogman.
They've got to try and find an opening, but the trouble is, Edison is still there in the back line. Now they do have 2 picks, but look at this, all the way through the post bomb. Edison finds Kariv. No one has unlocked the point yet. Edison is, I believe, one of the last men standing, and there you go. The whip shot from Cruz will shut him down. That fight almost tilted the way of Atlanta towards the tail end, but Toronto were able to win out that front war between the tanks, and off the back of it, they have now capped up the point. Good sign for them.
Very early Immortality Field coming out from Dogman. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know who was pressured or why he felt he needed to use it. We were watching Edison at the time, but now it's Agilities. Getting his blade up, the halt, setting him up.
Finally has the blade, finally has the halt, but that's going to be the Immortality Field forced through. Doesn't mean the damage is all for naught. He does get 1 kill and make it 2. The dash. Quick work, slicing and dicing. It's going to be a hold for Toronto. They're able to stop the push there from the Atlanta Reign. Didn't give them many opportunities to build up ultimates, I should say. But the Atlanta Reign are going to be having an opportunity now with the Bob to come back into this fight.
Bob available, but it's going to come down to Edison, really. He needs to distract this backline and stop the Defiant from taking an aggressive move.
Okay.
But it looks like Nevix starts it off with Gravitic
Big
Flux.
Flux used, but what a post bomb! Edison, the fadeaway. Cruz wandering straight into it. Another one for him. Can the Toronto Defiant even come back from this one? Logix is trying his hardest alongside Agilities, but it is all Atlanta Reign here. They have made quick work of the Toronto Defiant's defense, and they are going to be capping this point up here on this round, starting to build up a bit of that control point percentage.
A lot of ults used there for the Defiant to try and stay in control, but ultimate advantage or no, that was Edison. just doing so much work in the back, distracting the Brigitte, pulse bombing crews as well, and then taking down a couple of other players, or at least contributing to those kills. Toronto are going to come back in with a Blade, but Atlanta should be in fairly firm control. Edison can continue to harass, and they've got to push into a Supercharger. If Agilities goes for this, he's just going to get melted.
Aggressive angles that the Atlanta Reign are taking. They lay down the Superchargers, they move away from it. Get him moving forward past his shield. I heard him here. Agilities has built up a Blade, and now the Supercharger fades. So, an opportunity for him to go in here. Now the Blade comes out as well. That dash, perfect timing! 2 kills for Agilities. Wonderfully done, but instantly shut down by Baby Bay. Bob's going to be laid down as well onto the high ground just to start peppering them from afar. And the halt back as well is great from Gator. Pulled them straight back into Baby Bay's line of sight, and he gets the kills off the back of it. So the Atlanta Reign, despite the fact that they were 2 down immediately, they still hold on to this point, and surely not. Is Edison going to get this kill? The armor packs had to be committed then, and a bit of desperation to keep Agilities alive.
Atlanta have tied this up in terms of capture percentage as well, 66 to 66. Edison continues to pepper them in the backlines, and even though everybody's covered in armor from the armor packs, crews dishing that out like little cookies. Edison just is showering through it.
That's so sick.
That's a nice outplay, though.
That's so sick by Agilities, finding that kill on the Tracer. Such a small hitbox to hit that, and yet he finds the kill regardless, even when Edison had the armor pack applied. Beautiful stuff, great opening kill, and that has given Toronto a sign of life here.
Beautiful engagement, and that's, I think, exactly what Agilities needs to do. We've seen Genjis have to duel the Tracers more and more in this stylistic matchup where we've got the Tracer Ashe versus the Genji Ashe, or Widowmaker, being played. And I think if Agilities can just push Edison away or force recall out, the rest of the Toronto Defiant will find so much more value.
Another great stick. Means the Immortality Field gets forced out, and no one was there to heal Numlocked, but the Blade is going to come out now from Agilities. Not really finding any value, but Edison, my word! The tracking, absolutely elite. And despite the fact that the Toronto Defiant got that overtime, Atlanta Reign are going to recap it with 90% remaining and both tank ults available, which means that it is stall time. The Toronto Defiant are going to be making switches across the board to try and even touch this point. Finally, Numlocked will contest it as he switched over to the Wrecking Ball, but he is so close to going down. Great coach gun there from Baby Bay to save him as he almost fell off the edge of the map there, getting booped. He salvaged it for him, and he salvaged the opportunities for his team as the Atlanta Reign are going to be taking map number 1 in a closer match, I think, than some people might have expected.
Yeah, it was pretty back and forth when it came to both of the rounds, but Atlanta were fairly firmly in control. It took large plays coming out from Agilities or Logics to keep them even, whereas Edison was just so consistently excellent over and over again. I don't know whether Edison's going to stay in the entire time, whether Atlanta have other looks that they can throw in, but what we've learned from this first map is that Atlanta are very comfortable playing the Tracer Ashe kind of comps against the Toronto Defiant, and they look strong. Good start from Atlanta. That's what they need to head into the semi.
Edison with 71% kill participation. That was just the end stat screen that I saw.
That's absurd.
71%. I mean, he was a real just driving force for that team in that first map. But we're going to find out, can the Toronto Defiant battle back? Well, we're going to find out soon after the break. Don't go anywhere, guys.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Pringles Wavy. Big crunch, big flavor. And by Zip Chair Game, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
Oh, welcome back everybody to the Overwatch League, and we're here in the middle of our second quarterfinals match of the NA side of the Summer Showdown. A bit of a mouthful, but I managed it, believe it or not. My job is to talk on camera. The next one we're going to be heading into is King's Row, though. So an interesting one from the Toronto Defiant. I can understand it, though, because of how much Genji we've been seeing on that particular map and how proficient Agilities has been.
It's so weird to think that King's Row has now become a Genji map. It's like, oh yeah, of course, we're a Genji team, we should pick King's Row. It's very odd, but it has been working. I mean, we saw when Paris played it that the Genji style does go up very well, even against the Tracer Ashe, the Mei Ashe. Even if you threw in Torbjorn, I think the Genji would still be pretty good. There's a lot of high ground to play around, and there's walls that you can wall climb off and be able to get these kind of dash down engagements onto most people most times, and it's just brawly. And now that Genji has been buffed, his right click doing a lot more consistent damage, he's so much better in the neutral than he used to be. Genji really did used to be just a blade bot. You needed to build that Dragon Blade, and if you didn't, you were pretty useless in the fight. Well, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's a nice change. I'm a big fan of the subsequent buff, not just saying that as a Genji man. I actually haven't played much Genji in recent times. I've moved over to the hit scan, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Because Genji just hasn't really been viable for the longest time, but maybe I might pick it up, you know?
True.
Go back to my old stomping grounds, the Brenji, bring them out in your ranked games. Soon, you will be losing SR, as you'll be on my team.
Yep.
And we're going to see the rest of this quarterfinals match. Enough about us, of course. These two teams are battling it out in the quarterfinals for an opportunity to move forward in the Summer Showdown Tournament. A lot of money on the line, 50 grand to first place. And wins alongside it as well, just to really hammer home the stakes. Because at the end of the day, these teams are playing for the long haul here. I think the money is a nice bonus, but the real prize is going to be getting those extra match wins that can make or break your seeding when it comes to the playoffs later on in the year.
Absolutely true. For the Atlanta Reign, I'm surprised they didn't make any player substitutions here. Massa continues to be sat on the bench, and Ersta is not coming in to play Genji. They are looking to roll out here with Edison on the Genji. Now, Edison is good. He's a highly flexible player who can also play projectile roles like this. Now, my choice would always be Ersta over Edison when it comes to Genji, but maybe they value some more flexibility. Perhaps they're going to run Edison on a different role when it comes to defense. Let's see what he can get done.
Yeah, you can see Agilities is over on the Mei as well as a deterrent away from the Genji. It's a role that he can play, but it's not one that he is known for. But Logix gets the kill onto Edison. Great way to start things out here. Teams are going to start colliding in the choke point. You can see that Ice Wall going to be used to just try and pin Hawk, see if he can get a kill. The Hulk yoinks him forwards, and that means that the Toronto Defiant have enough kills to really stabilize here. Which will be over. Oh my goodness. Okay, Baby Bait. Dancing with death a little bit, but he gets out alive.
Baby Bay has enjoyed putting a bit of disrespect in the match chat against some of these rookie players that he's played against. But Logix has been around for perhaps even longer than Baby Bay has when it comes to his tenure at the top of the Overwatch scene. And he hits him with a headshot there, just showing him who's boss. And Edison, again, has actually gone back to the Tracer, so he doesn't want to play the Genji. Perhaps a little uncomfortable, perhaps doesn't think it's as viable against the Mei. We've seen it be very effective, so this is a bit surprising to me.
I think their game plan is to try and distract Logix with the Tracer in the background. You can see what Edison's doing, just peppering away at Logix, trying to remove some of that firing power that is so consistent for Toronto. Trouble is, Logix can more than take care of himself. He's trying to, as I say that, I mean he just butchered every single shot, but that's okay, you know, sometimes the caster curse comes out. They do get the dynamite debuff onto him. Edison is just, essentially his job here is to try and make the backline of Toronto a nightmare. Trying to focus both on the front to try and put out that consistent damage, but also make sure Logix can't do any sort of dirty work with that coach gun. Or with the rifle.
Sure. He's putting a lot of damage in now. There was a pulse bomb came out from Edison, but didn't catch too much. He has to be worried about the icicles as well, as the Toronto Defiant look behind them just for a moment, and Edison is caught. That allows him to focus forward. Bob was holding down the front lines. Don't worry, guys, I've got it.
I mean, he got out alive.
But now the Toronto Defiant focus back forward.
Bit of a rarity to see the Bob survive, but he did. Agility's still holding on to this Blizzard. I mean, this is ample opportunities now for Toronto to really do a number on the Atlanta Reign push. You gotta remember, guys, only a minute 30 left. We'll be looking for an opportunity, and as the choke point comes down, so does the Blizzard. That's an instant reaction. The freeze is there. And the front line of Toronto just tears into the Atlanta Reign, unable to stand up to them. Great showing thus far from Toronto.
Yeah, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm super disappointed that Atlanta aren't playing Genji. This is a Genji map. You have Edison, who is capable at Genji, but also Ursa, who is a star Genji. A really, really good Genji on your roster. So, you're really just going to force Tracer Ash over and over again into the May here? This doesn't make too much sense to me, and Toronto Defiant are punishing them for it.
Gravitic Flux is going to be used here by Hawk. I believe Nevix may have been cancelled out of his. But we finally see the Atlanta Reign getting an opening. Edison, nice little pulse bomb. The stick just off to the side. Karib will fall, and now only the tanks remain. But they will fall. Now, with just 30 seconds remaining, the Atlanta Reign have got their capture on point A. Maybe a bit of congestion time for the Toronto Defiant, but it looks like they are just opting to hold at this choke point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You just want to hold at the archway. That's perfectly fine. Allow them to unlock the payload. And Atlanta Reign, it took them 3.5 minutes, but eventually they got double tank ultimates, the Amp Matrix, and then also a Pulse Bomb to be able to take point A. But it's not going to get much easier for them. Only 2.5 minutes on the clock, and Agility's just building up to another Blizzard. That Blizzard is going to be so deadly in the choke. They're relying on Edison enormously to be able to get them in here.
Okay, the Dynamite is going to get off as well as Baby Bay works his way onto the high ground. Using the coach gun to get up there. Now they've locked off at the choke point here. Agility's going to be using his wall. Doesn't even really have his Blizzard yet, but the damage is really being done, and Edison boots backwards. Finally the Blizzard comes up, but not before Logix does fall. Anyone really follow this one up here? You can see Baby putting in so much consistent damage. The Dynamite, the shots just over and over and over again, and Edison again! You kidding me? Tearing through them. Nice ult coming out from Gator just to pull them all together into the Pulse Bomb. It means they will break eventually through this choke point.
Edison is a beast. He went and forced out the Immortality Field by nearly killing Kariv. Then he just kills the Immortality Field and kills Kariv anyway. Comes back in and gets the Pulse Bomb, finishes off another couple of players. Huge in that fight. They need Edison to go big. Here he is, just making sure that the rest of the Toronto Defiant can't follow up on that Blizzard, annihilating them from the back.
Brutal, and as you can see, this team fight has taken place quite close to the checkpoint here. And if Toronto lose this, they could be on the backside of this car, pushed all the way to the third. They're going to try and stop them here, though. As you can see, the amplification matrix is used now, laying through them. Atlanta have to play off angles just so they don't play straight into it, but the halt into the Gravitic Flux is going to connect them to a couple of targets here. Hawk out of position, who's gliding right to the left side of the map. It gave them an opportunity to try and take him out there. Hawk pumping in so much work with those hyperspheres. It's going to be a capture now, 2 minutes 20. A bit of a roll in the middle section of King's Row. The Atlanta Reign will be quite pleased with the amount of space and pressure they've been applying.
Edison continues to be a beast, just cleaning up kill after kill. And Toronto have not really got anything going. They did a great job at defending on point A, but since then, they kind of dropped the ball in a lot of these fights. They haven't been able to deal with Edison's pressure in the backline, and they haven't been playing aggressively enough with Agilities either. Oh, they die so quickly there, and Nevix, he ends up slapping himself in the face with a hypersphere.
Yeah, I mean, that's just unfortunate. I think he got ticked down. He didn't do so much damage to himself, but I mean, Nevix
must have been
falling
headshot by
yeah,
Baby Bay as
he
well.
must have just received a ton of burst damage, and then the hypersphere, his own hypersphere, ended up taking him down, and that's given Atlanta Reign. And in 1 minute 30, Logix has to do something here from the high ground. The Dynamite is going to connect. He has to hit these shots, and finally the coach gun will do the work, but not before he falls himself. Agility with the blade. Can he do anything? The halt, it's perfect. The Immortality Field is not there to save them as he slices and dices through the opposition once again. Atlanta Reign, though, with the accretion, they take him out. Agilities will not be alive for the end of this fight, this defense, but Toronto are holding on.
Yeah, 3v3 at the end there, and Gator and Hawk were both weak. No healers left alive, so Agilities, he did enough with that blade to hold them off, but that's only his first blade that he's got since swapping to Genji in the defense of point B. 50 seconds left, the time bank low for the Atlanta Reign because they took so long to be able to attack point A. but they're still looking pretty here. They're going to be up to a supercharger and a bob, and Babyface found the first kill as well.
I believe that was Edison's pulse bomb that really set it up as well. Combined burst damage too much, but look at that. Amplification matrix is going to mean the Gator falls. They can't keep peeking into this. They do just that. Logic's with a nice little headshot.
Too greedy.
And yeah, that's
too greedy from the Atlanta Reign. They should have just waited it out, bought the time. Okay, it lasts for a while, but you still would have had a little bit of time on the clock. As it is, Hawk is gonna have to go over to the Wrecking Ball just to be able to touch. Only 10 seconds left. And Atlanta, what seemed like a fairly winnable situation for them, is now gonna be desperation.
How's he gonna touch this? The accretion is gonna knock him back. The Hulk pulling him a little bit forward. He goes down. Someone did touch that. I believe it may have been Edison.
I think it was Edison.
The Bob moving into the backline here, but his target priority's all off. Logix has not fallen. Logix again just pumping in so much work. The dynamite is there. He takes out the supercharger. The Atlanta Reign just have to chuck bodies at the card to even keep this one going. Not able to do so. See Hawk is back in the fight, but not for much longer. There's the supercharger is going to be stopping them. And Toronto Defiant, they do stop the Atlanta Reign in their tracks, so giving them a very ample window of opportunity. Toronto Defiant on their attack, if they get a bit of speed behind them, if they get a bit of momentum, could be a map win for them.
It totally could. And also, I think that the Tracer pick from Edison is much better on attack than it is on defense. On defense, he has a time pressure, right? He has to find value before the Toronto Defiant decide to engage. It makes it much more difficult to find those perfect timings on the Tracer because you don't have... It's not your team that's initiating. You're getting pushed into as the defensive team. So... We'll see what Edison decides to run. His Tracer has been really good today. I just don't think it's the optimal pick. Maybe it's the optimal pick for Atlanta, but it's not the optimal pick just generally speaking. And he's going to start with the Genji. I think this is good, but Edison honestly got nothing done when he played the Genji at the beginning of point A. He didn't really give it that long. He only really gave it 2 lives. But this is our first real test of how Edison can perform on this hero.
I think in map 1, we credited a lot of Atlanta's success just off the back of Edison distracting in the backline. And it makes sense that, I mean, that's a playstyle that they're clearly quite comfortable with, quite consistent with. We know Edison can play the Genji, but as you said, Josh, there's going to be a lot of eyes watching him here to see if he can perform on the same level against his opposition of agilities. We've seen a lot of good Genji players today who've been treated, almost. What we're going to see now is the Toronto Defiant are going to be looking for an opportunity to equalize this series. They roll out of the gates. Again, just putting in that consistent damage. The Ash is so good at that. Really able to find those shots off from the wayside. Dynamite not going to be connecting, but you can see the aggression coming out as the teams are clashing right around the statue.
Logix is trying to find an engagement here into Agilities. Look, into Edison. See if he can land a stray shot here or there. But Agilities just manages to escape with his life after Numlock had died. And Fire is the one that gets credit for the kill, but really that was just a brawl where Numlock got stuck in. So far the Genji's not having too much impact, but as we start to near our next Dragon Blade in the next fight, we'll see whether Edison or Agilities takes the advantage.
This amplification matrix is so key. Force the positioning of Atlanta all the way around this corner. They cannot play into the line of sight, and there you go. That's what happens. That was a shuriken that was damage boosted up, and now the blade from Agilities dashed into the wall. Stuck. Don't worry, Agilities, I've been there as well, but it matters not when you're able to just get those swings in regardless. Going to be 2 kills for him, and Toronto Defiant happy with it. Going to cap up point A with a lot of time to work with. 5 minutes now as they begin to look to try and push this, and they don't even have to get a full completion. It's near enough towards the end, but 5 minutes to work with now. A very winnable scenario.
Yep. A much better point A offense for the Toronto Defiant, and Edison still hasn't built up that first Dragon Blade, which, considering that his team won the first fight, is a little bit surprising. He's not quite playing as aggressive as he needs to build up these Dragon Blades really, really quickly. But he will have the blade for the next fight, obviously. He can pair that with a supercharger, he can pair that with a rally. And it looks like Agilities is going around the back, seeing if he can disrupt the backline at the same time as Atlanta attack.
What he can do here.
That's unusual, honestly, because normally the Genji is now playing as a brawler rather than a backline assassinator.
Yep, Agilities.
Genji's in.
Oh, you went for it there. So much damage been put into them, but great peel from the Toronto Defiant. Kafka Blade was coming in, but that was the Immortality Field committed pretty early. Supercharger now going to be used on top of that. The Atlanta Ray, they need to get some more consistent wins out if they commit this many ultimates. The fact that they only got a single kill is not that great, to be honest. And now another Amplification Matrix. The Hulk pulls them in, and that means the Gator will fall. And Agilities with another Blade, health back in hand.
He's overlapped Edison. He has overlapped Edison at this point. Edison only at 25%. Agility is doing so much work in these fights. And by playing aggressively, by getting stuck into the brawls, he's able to finish off these tanks, put consistent pressure from them behind their own shields. And the Toronto Defiant, they're starting to get rolling.
Yeah, Toronto have discovered the win condition, I think. Forcing Atlanta Rain off of those Tracer Ash compositions, away from maps that maybe suit that. That's going to be where they're going to be finding a lot of these key wins. Map obviously isn't over just yet, but the way Toronto are playing right now, Cart's so close to being pushed in. They're going to contest it, though. Atlanta with an opportunity, but the Halt is perfect once more, and Agilities, again with the Blade, slicing through them. That's so good, because he's found the openings, and they found the checkpoint off the back of it. Even if he trades his life in the end, it does not matter. Checkpoint B, I should say, is theirs. And 4.5 minutes, Joss, to not even get a full completion.
Seems like an inevitability, doesn't it? Edison getting close. 75% towards his second Dragon Blade so far. And he's got that armor pack to be able to contest the high ground. Both Edison and Agilities are going to be fighting over that. And Edison's going to be the man to watch to stop this momentum that the Toronto Defiant have developed. 4 minutes on the clock. A huge time back.
And this card is so close to the finish line. Gravitic Flux is used, but I believe it only catches onto one as the Fortify was used there by Numlock. Logix with a headshot onto Edison! That's no Blade now for the fight. What a pickup! What a pick off! Dashing through, Agilities with an opportunity, but Babyface shuts him down, and it's going to have to be clutch plays now to win this one out. They have to make something happen here. Atlanta, they need opportunities. They've got to create them out of thin air. The Hulk pulls them together. It's a huge flux onto 3 targets. Edison back there with the Blade, and he's got 1. The damage pumped into them. They do salvage it. They do finally stop the bleeding just in the nick of time.
Great work from Atlanta. Even though Edison went down, they played a little slower, found some kills, invested the ults and invested the abilities, and Baby Bay is just consistent damage from the high ground. Edison finally finding value with that Blade as well towards the end. Unfortunately, though, that only takes a single minute off the clock. Toronto still have 3 left. And coming into this next fight, a Rally and a Blade. Powerful ults, but Atlanta have enough to be able to push them back. That Amp Matrix is impossible. It is literally impossible to push into an Amp Matrix. And in the next fight, they're going to be pushing into a Supercharger too. So Atlanta have got enough abilities, enough ultimates to be able to hold them off for a while.
See how aggressive they're playing? If they get one more pick off there, any sort of seconds they can shave off the clock would be quite good for them here. And as you said, Josh, they have the Supercharger to work with as well. Gator's going to be holding on to that. It's going to be a key ultimate to try and stop this push from Toronto. Toronto are no slouches either. They've got a couple of ults to use, including Young Brady, as you see on your screen here, with the Dragon Blade in hand. What can he do with it? Hunting for the Supercharger. Dash through will take it out. A lot of ultimates used here. The Immortality Field, it's going to be used, but Agility's brought down as Edison just dashing straight through.
I quite like this though, Brent. I quite like this though. Even though they gave a bit of ult to Edison and he's going to have another Blade, Atlanta used both tank ults in that fight, and the Defiant are just building up a bank of ultimates themselves. They're going to have 5 ready to go, and they're basically just going to pop them all. Amp Matrix to be able to get in around the corner, Rally with the Supercharger, with the Blade to be able to kill everybody. That's the goal. And for the Atlanta Rain, they're banking on a huge ult coming out from Edison. That's the only thing that can save them.
Blade comes out, Edison's got to go huge with it. Can he find any kills? He's putting in the damage necessary. The kills, they might not be attached to his name, but he does so much work and he allows the kills to happen, creating some space, forcing out the abilities. And again, another teamfight win here for the Atlanta Rain, and we're down to potentially the final minute.
I love the aggression. I love the ult cycling coming out from Atlanta. But this is the real test. Okay, the Rally was popped and wasted in that fight. But now an Amp Matrix to get in, and Agilities with his Super Blade, the Supercharger plus the Dragon Blade. This is going to be the hardest for Atlanta to defend.
See, both teams ended up using their Amplification Matrix, so both of them had to play passive. But now it is the opportunity to go in as the Superchargers lay down the Blade! Young Brady Agilities slices through Hawk, takes him out. no troubles whatsoever, and his team can now press forward. The advantage is theirs, and they can taste victory on the tip of their tongues. Look at the aggression.
And it's a really nice, really nice momentum that they've managed to get forwards. Everybody forced through that left-hand side, and all Toronto have to do is keep this up, keep up the pressure, and avoid getting headshot.
Edison playing the McCree now. As Flashbang comes out, but he's not able to find any kills. The shield is perfect from Numlock. Agilities is tearing into them through the back line. No one can touch, no one can stop it. And the Toronto Defiant are going to even it out, and they're going to make this series competitive, 1-1.
Great stuff from the Toronto Defiant there. I love the way that they were playing around agilities on the Genji, but more than that, I love the way they set themselves up an ultimate advantage. They push in, they know what else to force out of Atlanta, they get themselves in the best position possible with a supercharger and a blade for that final fight, and agilities comes up clutch. A bit disappointing, honestly, that Atlanta don't seem like they have a great Genji Ashe gameplay to be able to work with, but it's going to be the same kind of thing as we saw in the previous match. A Tracer Ashe team versus a Genji team. And that's going to come down a lot to the map picks. I'm excited for this series, Brent. I thought Atlanta might roll it a bit, but we've got another match.
It's going to be good. It's going to be exciting, and I'm excited as well to hear what our analysts have to make of that. We'll see you guys after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile. And by State Farm. For auto, home, or renters insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Hello and welcome to yet another game break presented by Cheese Grooves. Zoe here, joined by Costa and Reinforcing. Guess what? We got another 1-1 score line to present to you at a halftime. And I believe that means that every single match so far in this Summer Showdown actually had a halftime where each team had one map victory. It's quite crazy, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It's good.
And I think 5 out of 6 had King's Row as the second map.
Yeah, sounds about right. We've seen so much King's Row.
We're onto something here. We're onto something. Stats guys, do magic. Tell us what's going on.
It's been 6 matches. I should be able to count 6 matches.
No. Stats guys, come on, help us out.
No, we never got to bring in the professionals for this Reinforce. I can't. I just can't. Either way, what I can do is talk about the match at hand. Let's start with Busan. It was a back and forth. Yes, we did see some good moments there from Toronto Defiant, but overall it was kind of Atlanta Reign's game. Specifically, Edison really popped off there.
Yeah, and this is what we've come to expect of Busan so far. And Jake summed it up nicely yesterday that Genji has a few angles on this map where you can really get some value with your Dragon Blades, etc. But for the most part, Tracers have a really good time on Busan, and we saw Edison really come into his element on this first map in the series. And you saw the style that the Atlanta Reign really prefer to play. This is what it looks like when the Atlanta Reign play at their highest level. So they looked really comfortable and based their play around Edison. He was able to shut down both logics and agilities and overpower the Toronto Defiant. So a dominant performance in many ways. And when Atlanta Reign plays like this, it changes the dynamic of the series a bit, because now you don't really have to consider Agility's Genji as much. You have to consider Edison's Tracer. So like, how are we going to work around Edison's Tracer to enable him? What maps are that going to work for? You take a look at the stats themselves. 13 final blows as Tracer on Busan. 71% pulse bomb attach rate.
That's
32
crazy.
eliminations. 3 deaths. Like, he was popping off and was the big difference maker for this Atlanta Reign team.
Yeah, but now we're looking at the second map here, Costa, and it really felt like Toronto Defiant kind of figured out their win condition being forcing Edison off of that Tracer.
Yeah, King's Row is historically not a very good Tracer map, and we saw it there. I think that's the win condition of the Toronto Defiant. Get agilities on the Genji. He's been playing so well, and you can force Atlanta Reign and Edison onto the Genji, which he doesn't look that comfortable on. We definitely saw the two styles sort of clash, and Toronto Defiant are definitely getting the better end of the stick. And the most important thing for me is that in the first map, I don't think Logix was really available. Edison was running all over them. Baby Bay was killing people left and right. And Logix wasn't getting anything done, creating that space for agilities. On the second map, complete opposite thing. Logix was creating so much pressure and putting in so much damage that they had to commit resources to shutting down Logix, and that just gave agilities freedom to just dash, kill everybody, and just mess everyone up with the blade, except for this one where he dashed into a wall, which is just something I would do.
Happens, Well, let's talk about Edison's Genji, though. They did force him onto the Genji, and I believe you looked that up earlier, Reinforce. How much time did he actually spend on Genji? How many minutes?
So far this year, 2 minutes.
Wow.
Nice.
Genji so far this year.
Seems about right to then bust that one
Maybe
out,
he's playing the contenders.
on
Wolf would know.
our Summer Showdown. What were your thoughts on that second half, Reinforce?
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't look as though the Atlanta Reign were really comfortable in that style, and I think Costa really hit the nail on the head. We've seen so many times how Genjis on King's Row are managing to get so much value. So, at the same time though, gotta backtrack, do the typical Reinforce backtrack. I don't think necessarily this hurts the Atlanta Reign too much, because now you get map pick when it comes to the assault map. Because keep in mind, if you had one King's Row, yeah, that's nice, you're up 2-0, etc. You have undoubtedly the lead in the series. But then you're probably forced onto Hanamura, you can't play the Tracer as much, but now they get the map pick on assault, so they can sort of circumvent that Genji problem and put Edison in a position to shine.
Is there a map that counters Genji? Like, I feel like assault is the one map in which Genji... There aren't many situations where Genji is bad. I think the only one I can think of to my mind is Horizon Lunar Colony, and that's not even in the map pool.
I mean...
Look, it's probably better to play like Volskaya instead of Hanamura, But we saw Sparkle pop off on Volskaya not too long ago.
So.
I mean, maybe it's more of a how can we enable our Tracer versus how can we shut down their Genji in
Yeah,
terms
exactly,
of map pick.
Look at the bright side.
Exactly. The glass is definitely half full. Can't talk anymore, apparently. Anyway, that's why I'm going to hand it over to you guys in our crunch time presented by Cheez-It Grooves. Logix has been the difference maker here on King's Row, and that is one of the players you both mentioned who just has to step it up for his team.
Yeah, I mean, might be a bit of a hot take. We didn't pick a Genji player for once for our crunch time. Instead, we picked Logix. But I think it's for a worthwhile reason, because I think that Agilities, we sort of expected him to have good Genji performances and Toronto Defiant to rely on him a lot. But Logix has complemented him really well on this hit scan role, and his Ashe had a significant impact on King's Row, where you now have 2 pressure points of the Toronto Defiant that you have to try and shut down. If you take a look at the stats themselves, 35% scope critical hit accuracy on Ashe, 15 dynamite kills. I mean, the damage output, 11,500 damage per 10 minutes. Yeah. The damage output is just unreal from Logix. So when you have to deal with Logix and Agilities, that is when the Toronto Defiant really becomes a scary team, because now you can't just commit all your resources to make sure that Agilities doesn't get good value from his Genji, that his blades aren't working out. Now you also have to pay attention to Logix and make sure that he's disturbed and harassed away from the team, so he can't get that value on Ashe as well. So this is really what makes Toronto Defiant a scary team throughout the rest of the series.
Right, so very quick last thoughts. We are indeed heading to Volskaya. Kosta, what do you want to see?
I want to see Atlanta Reign play the double hit scan. I think they want to shy away from the Genji mirror. If they play the double hit scan, they can definitely make it work. Volskaya is a little hard for Genji, but as we talked about, Paris did make it work. Toronto can definitely make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see who's going to walk away with the W and qualify for our semifinals in the Summer Showdown. So without any further ado, let's head straight into our third map. The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overwatch League. You're joining us in the middle of our second quarterfinals of the day, of course, between the Toronto Defiant and the Atlanta Reign, and it's currently 1-1, so anyone's game as of yet. And what we've seen thus far is that the Toronto Defiant more leaning towards the Genji playstyle, and the Atlanta Reign really want to be sticking to that double hit scan. This is something that the analyst desk was talking about in our game break just then.
Yeah, and I totally agree with them in terms of map pick as well. We should be seeing Volskaya Industries, and that is what the Atlanta Reign have ended up going for. It's much better for the Tracer and for the hit scan. It didn't really work out for our previous teams as well, for the Vancouver Titans when they were playing against Paris. Yeah. But I think that was more to do with the skill discrepancy between the two teams rather than the style that they play. Atlanta, to remind everybody, are the heavy favorites coming into this. They have never lost a map against a team that is supposed to be weaker than them at that certain week. So I guess you could say that this is the first time. But Toronto have looked better themselves. They're starting to make a push for maybe being considered a middle-of-the-pack team instead of hanging out at the bottom as they have for the majority of this season.
Definitely helps that the meta is kind of shifting into their favor with Agilities being able to play a lot more Genji. As you can see from our map set here, Volskaya Industries is the map that we're going to be going to. And it's a map where, as a Tracer player, you can get a lot done. Some of the most famous Tracer battles of all time have happened on Volskaya. If you think back to Profit, you know, in I believe the grand finals, it was that famous moment where he clutched up on point B.
Kills 5 of them, 1v1's carpet.
And of course, some of the most famous battles between, say, Biobi and Striker as well that's occurred on Volskaya. It's been a Tracer's playground since the map has realistically been out. And now we're going to see what the Atlanta Reign can do on it, because they clearly are more comfortable when Edison can play that Tracer.
And Edison on Tracer we expect to be a beast when it comes to Volskaya. So really, when I look at the Toronto Defiant and I'm saying who's going to step up from this team, it's Logix. I got to agree with the desk. Logix has been great on King's Row, but he needs to come out and perform again. Babyface had some really good showings on Ashe, specifically on Volskaya throughout 2020. Logix needs to outplay him. If Edison is going to go wild on the Tracer, then you at least need to be winning the Ashe matchup. You hope that your backline can stay solid against Edison, but Logix needs to take matters into his own hands, needs to start hitting the heads, because they absolutely require him to be a focal figure on Volskaya's high ground.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Logix's shoulders. As the time has ticked down, though, we're going to find that the Toronto Defiant, they have the first defense. Atlanta Reign get their turn to attack. You can see Edison. It's going to be working around here on the side off angles. He's going to get an armor pack as well, up to 200 HP, so opportunities for him to try and make it work.
Yeah, he's looking for a flank at the moment, trying to get into the backline, seeing if he can put pressure on Kariv or Cruz. Normally he tries to get onto Kariv, force out that immortality field a little earlier on. So he's just spotting out where everybody's positioned right now for the Toronto Defiant. And it's a high ground hold. Both supports, Cruz and Kariv, up on the high ground with both of the tanks as well. It does leave Logix a bit open.
Okay.
Oh, that's actually a good punish by Hawk.
Yep.
As much as Gator going down really hurts them, it's still winnable if you take out the Genji.
Any kills that the Atlanta Reign get on the attack, they have a much better spawn advantage. So if they trade evenly, it works out in their favor almost every single time. And now Toronto Defiant are going to be pressured to drop to the low ground here to a degree. They have to contest this pointer because already a tick. Holt's going to come in and push them forwards, but Numblock's very, very low. Has to walk back into the immortality field, but that dynamite from Baby puts in a lot of work. Brings them nice and low, and it's enough for Edison to just clean up the remnants. Wonderful stuff from the Atlanta Reign, finding opportunities.
And we were talking about the Battle of the Ashes, and Logix's positioning takes the off angle, and Baby sneaked up behind him to be able to land a bullet in the back of his head, execution style. And Baby just continues to dominate in that first team fight. Okay, so despite losing Gator as the first pick, Atlanta Reign quite easily managed to pick up point A. Got their eyes set on B. Edison going to flank around the side as Baby takes the back.
Look at this, Bob immediately coming in, which means they have to play forwards. They have to contest this point, otherwise they give up that control percentage. Logix. Okay, we said that he needs to turn up. He's going to be the deterrent away from Edison getting away with murder in the back line, and he just did that. Straight away, piece of lead into the cranium is enough as a deterrent as you can get, really.
That's true. That's absolutely true. When we saw Paris defend on Volskaya, they dominated on point B by having Sparkle pop off with his Dragon Blades. So Agilities needs to do the same. Control the high ground, use your blades, here it comes.
Pulse Bomb used, but it matters not because Agilities is there. So many kills going his way. You love to see it. I mean, I lost count of that. I think that might have been 5, but wow.
Yeah.
Astounding stuff and a good hold for them. Now, admittedly, they did have to use some pretty impactful ultimates. They had to use the blade, they had to use the supercharger, but you know, getting those defenses, getting those wins, obviously infinitely important.
Now it's also important, though, that Defiant build up that Genji Blade really quickly again. That's another thing that Sparkle is amazing at, and one of the reasons that Paris dominated their hold on point B against the Vancouver Titans. Agilities needs to play aggressive, needs to build the blade up, needs to stop Edison getting around the flanks and harassing his backline. And Logix is just going to continue to pepper and pressure, threatening to headshot everybody as they approach.
Amplification Matrix used, and that's going to be an instant gravitic flux. I don't know if I agree with that one, but
Forces out Immortality Field, though.
okay, a couple of ults going to be used, but it means that Numlock will fall because the amount of damage they're able to pump through here with the supercharger laid down, no one's able to destroy it. Agility's so close to his blade, only about 20% away from it. Has to build it up. He needs it to try and turn this fight around. Edison with the pulse bomb. Moving forward. What a stick. Finds it onto the single target. Cruz will go down as he peppers him from afar. And Agility's, he has to turn this around. He has to use his blade. He gets 1 kill, but not able to find a follow-up onto Hawk here, but he did enough. Pushing him back here. Take him out into the back line. Oh, that is going to stop the push. So, crisis averted to a degree.
Well, crisis delayed, actually, because Edison was still in. Okay, now he's been taken out. It looked like Atlanta Reign wanted to go back in there because Edison was still in a good position. He'd found kills and Agilities had been picked. But with Edison getting bashed, a great shutdown play by Cruz, they have averted the crisis, at least this time. Agilities, though, was a little slow to build up that blade on defense. With the new Genji buff, you build that blade insanely quickly, and Agility's only just had it at the end there to clutch. I'd like the Defiant to play a bit more aggressive so that he has that blade available.
See the amplification matrix, the window used just to peel away the Atlanta Reign. They can't play into it, but now it fades away, which means that the Atlanta Reign can go in, and they're going to use their own window. Yeah, Matrix laid down. Logix is destroyed. The Hulk yanked them into the line of sight of it. He's actually doing a ton of damage through to force them back here. Already 2 ticks gained. Someone has to touch this point. It's all up to Agilities to try and use it with his deflect, but Numlock now has to take up the mantle. He goes down almost immediately, and no one can touch this one, despite the fact that Agilities got his blade up. Not there in time, just a little bit off the mark, and Atlanta Reign, they do manage to capture all 2 of the checkpoints.
Toronto have done a very good job so far in this bracket to be able to come out and even qualify in the first place and then beat the LA Valiant. But now that they're going up against a decent team in the Atlanta Reign, you can really see some of their mistakes showing. They didn't play aggressive, so they didn't put any real pressure on the Atlanta Reign, even though they had used their Amp Matrix. So Agilities doesn't really build up his blade. Then Logix peaks the Amp Matrix coming out from Dogman and dies. And the Toronto Defiant, they all back off around a corner. They get halted and they use their Orisa Shield and their Immortality Field at the exact same time, totally wasting the Immortality Field. And they just give up all of their position, all of their abilities and cooldowns, and the Atlanta Reign just squeeze them out. Much better, cleaner play from the Atlanta Reign in terms of their positioning, their timings, and their ability usage. It's obvious to me that Atlanta Reign are the better team. It's just whether Agilities and Logix can clutch this one out. They're fighting an uphill battle here against the number 2 seed in our Summer Showdown. And it's not like Atlanta Reign are really the second best team that we have, so their seeding lies a little bit, but they are significant favorites in this match.
Tough one for them, but the Defiant now are going to be hunting for an opportunity to battle back and see if they can turn this series into their favor. And a lot of it's going to be on the back of Agilities that we're seeing here. The back of whether or not he can build up his blades effectively, whether or not he can shut down the opposing DPS players. Not allow Edison to get as much free range, as you can see. Working his off angles, dashing through them to go back to the safety of his team.
Looking for the duel as well now. Agility is trying to push Edison away. This is great. Absolutely necessary, but Logic's going down is a thorn in their side. We said at the beginning of this map that Logic's really had to turn up, had to be winning these Ash 1v1s, and he's had a quiet map so far.
I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? They get the shield bash onto Edison, but they just can't kill him. He's 188 health, like maybe even more when he had the armor pack on him. But Toronto, they still want to press their advantage once more. See, the amplification matrix is used, so Atlanta Reign have to play really tight around this corner just to avoid a lot of it, but when you're in that close quarters, it makes it so easy to just dash right through you. So Agility's already built up a blade. He didn't even have to use it to win out this first checkpoint. Great opportunity for Toronto here to really snowball this one now.
And that's smart by Toronto. They push Edison away, force him to use his blinks, use his recall, by dueling with agilities and then getting a bash from Cruz. And you're right, even though Edison, there's no way they can kill him. If they force abilities out of him, if they force those cooldowns, then they can fight the tank line because they know that Edison can't help. Can't help the rest of his team fight at all. And that's what Numlocked and Nevix do. As soon as they push Edison away, they go on the offensive. Agilities, he's built up another blade.
Another blade, 250 health. What more can you ask for as a Genji main? Maybe a halt.
You gotta love it.
Yeah, to set it up, but let's find out whether he's going to be able to get what he received. He decides not to go in, so defensive dash, moving backwards because of the window.
They're just kiting the amp matrix coming out from Dogman, but this also gives them time to build up their supercharger. Both superchargers are probably going to be popped in this team fight, and a rally blade, I think, is going to be the order of the day from the Toronto Defiant.
It's quite low. We start to see the ults coming online here. Karif. Oh, the shield bash misses. Oh, what a mistake from Fire, but evened out in the end as Edison's going to be making his mark on the back line. Logic's going down. Agility's still with the blade. He could turn this, but chooses not to. Just going to save it. It's a smart play.
It is the smart play. And we didn't really get to see what happened to the Toronto Defiant as they engaged there, but Kariv used his amp matrix, which should open up everything for you. There's no way that Atlanta are going to be peeking the amp matrix. But somehow a pulse bomb in the back from Edison catches one of the backline players, and then Numlock falls too. So, not a successful push whatsoever from the Toronto Defiant, but they have retained a lot of ults.
Edison, you can see how annoying he's being in the backline. It's just peppering them away. Sometimes even getting close to a kill or two, but Toronto have found space. Really looking to take the objective now in any way they can as the ult starts them online. Deflect to use, that's one cooldown used. They're playing quite slow here, looking for opportunities. The photon from Edison doesn't get what he's looking for, but it brings down Nevix to almost single digits of health. Again, not really taking a proactive approach, but maybe they will now as they start to make their move with the ults. A couple to work with.
They are slow, aren't they? Okay, right, engage with the Gravitic Flux.
Yeah, Flux is going to get used to send them up, but that's going to mean the instant bomb. Now the Supercharger going to be used instantly. Going to be bringing down the Supercharger though, and they're not really getting anything done here. I got a lot of questions for Toronto right now. I'm wondering what they're really doing because their timing just seems off.
They look scared of the ults from Atlanta Reign. And I had the same issue with them when they played against the Valiant yesterday, is that, okay, Defiant came out with the win, but they were so slow in terms of how they played. Whereas the best teams, you know, the Shock, Paris, they put pressure on their opponents by playing aggressively. They really squeeze you and make you have to react. Action is always faster than reaction. Edison having to react to some of these shurikens that are getting thrown at him at the moment. Toronto have managed to they've managed to save some ults here, so they can still push in with the amp matrix and get a blade from agilities. It's taken a long time for them to get anything going.
Already 2 minutes. The amp matrix is going to force hopefully some positioning now as Bob's going to be used. That will force them onto the point because it's going to start capping it up slowly but surely. Bob brought down agilities with the blade though, the stun! Shut down. I believe that was Fire with the shield bash, and there was an effort. Great showcasing from him. Someone's still alive, just causing havoc on the point. The shield is going to go down as well, and they're finding picks. I thought this was turned from Atlanta, but a bit of a split, a bit of a divide and conquer strategy employed by them. Who can really touch this one? Edison, the last man on the point here. Now Dogman's turn to rotate, but they end up losing the point regardless. What a great showing from Toronto. That looked so losable, but I think it was all off the back of Agility's blade forcing out the cooldowns.
Yep, and forcing positioning crucially as well. Like, he made so much space on the point. They'd already got quite a lot of space from the Amp Matrix, and it's slow, cautious play from the Toronto Defiant, but they eventually get the win. If they hadn't immediately pressed forward with their tank line, though, and taken all of that space that Agility's bought them, they would have lost, because, you know, Agility's got his blade shut down. He didn't come up with the kills, didn't even really do that much damage. But it's the space. Agilities pushes in, and he forces Fire and Gator to look at him, to use their abilities to hold backwards as well, and they just cannot stop Numlocked and Nevix pressing across the point with Cruise. So quite nice play in the end from the Toronto Defiant, capitalizing on a killless blade, or at least a blade that was very quickly shut down. It is still very slow, though. When you consider that the Toronto Defiant had 4 minutes there, it's perhaps a bit disappointing that they end up with 1 minute 40 in the time bank, but at the end of the day, you're just going to be happy that you matched the Atlanta Reign.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. But I think it's quite impressive as well, considering this was Atlanta Reign's map pick. You've got to consider that I think Atlanta were probably feeling quite good coming into this one, and
For sure.
even in time is no small feat. Still, now the Toronto Defiant, they've got another job to do. 1 minute 40, which is trickling down and down and down. Maybe 2 team fights, that's probably all they're going to get here. So they need to make the most of every single opportunity. Maybe trying to...
And again, I'm looking at Logix.
Yeah.
Again, I'm looking at Logix. I want to see if he can crack this open the same way Baby Bay did on his attack. I love this. Pressure from Agility. He's forcing out the recall. Now they can go for the tank war as well when they know that Edison is going to have to play a bit more passive.
And Agility's taking his off angle. Look at it. The hold does connect, but no one to follow it up. Normally, you see these Genji players, they want to be using their dashes into the holds to maximize it, to build up ults, but instead, Agility, they prioritizes the backline. Baby Bay goes down. Good opening kill for them, and he's going to work his way out the front door as well, using that dash. Oddman desperately trying to keep his team alive here, trying to keep them at least in this engagement, but Logix is popping off right now, and now Agility's committing the blade. Maybe when it wasn't quite necessary, but seals the deal at least, and that's going to mean that there's going to be a bit of time now for Toronto Defiant to snowball this one into the second objective. If they can do that, it's going to be fantastic.
Edison totally shut down there. Agilities duels him at the beginning and gets the better end of it, and then Logix hits him with a headshot. It's impossible for Atlanta Reign to win if their Tracer is getting out-dueled by the Toronto Defiant's DPS. It's not feasible. They can't win these fights. So, great work to prioritize Edison, and again they force out the recall. Now they don't have to worry so much.
Not a kill. If that was a headshot, it would have been a kill. Unfortunate that Agility's missed that, but the timing is precise. It's hard to get it off. See though, he's flanking around the back side of the map. Going to be looking for an opportunity to see if he can get a kill or two, but Toronto Defiant too slow in their engagement. They've already lost 2 players. The bob from Baby Bay is tearing into them, and with only 12 seconds remaining, I don't believe they've got anyone that can realistically touch this.
Nevix is going to go over to the speedy wrecking ball, but I think you're right, Brent. 4 seconds, no one's even close.
Halted
And
back, I
Nevix
think,
surely going to get bashed or killed. That's going to be it. And the Toronto Defiant, again, their caution bites them a little bit when it comes to point B. But honestly, they've given themselves a very winnable scenario.
They really have. I mean, worst case scenario would have been obviously getting held at that first checkpoint and then having only a drawable game. But they have given themselves a win condition, so respect to them for that. The downside is they're up against the Atlanta Reign, and they're not scared to take the aggression. They're not scared to take space when it's given to them. So Toronto need to, honestly, in a weird sense, it's weird advice to give them, but I mean, stop showing so much respect to the Atlanta Reign. Obviously, you need to respect Edison. He's a good player, but playing a little bit more proactive may be the key to victory for them.
And I'm going to bring it up again. I want Logix to come out with some big stuff on the defense here. Baby Bay flanked him last time and killed him immediately. Just a headshot straight into the back. Nobody knew that Baby Bay was going on that flank. He caught Logix completely unawares. And that's what really opened things up for the Atlanta Reign's push. Surely they won't get caught off by that again, but they've got to anticipate similar strats. The Defiant seem like they like to hold with their tanks and their supports up on this high ground where you can see Kariv. Agility's over by the box, and then Logix takes a large off angle. But that does leave Logix a bit open to Baby Bay or Edison going for a flank. And this time, okay, adaptation from the Toronto Defiant. Logix is going to play with the rest of his team. Take advantage of the shielding. Take advantage of the supports that are playing alongside you. That's going to make him a... It's going to give him less angles to actually attack, but he won't be an early pick.
Yeah, that's going to be what they're looking for. You can see Bebe just hunting for a kill. The headshots were connecting. Agilities is the only one playing on the flank here. He is so low. Has to be the recipient of 2 armor packs there, just to heal him back up. And it's given Edison a bit of space as well, because he knows those cooldowns are going to be starting to come online a little bit now, but the space is being taken. What a one clip! Edison finds it. Atlanta Reign have been given a lifeline here. They can push forwards with this one if they can play aggressively with it. Edison, no one staring at him. The Immortality field forced out, but luckily the Toronto Defiant have got the opening pickoffs needed to stop the push from Atlanta Reign. Could have been incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, thankfully the Defiant went aggressive at the same moment as Logix died. Otherwise, that would have been curtains for them, I think. But Atlanta are continually finding the kills on Logix. As soon as he's left alone, it's either Edison or Baby that picks him off. If Defiant can solve that issue, or if they can just keep disrespecting Atlanta and pushing into them 5v6, that's where the Defiant will find this win. 30 seconds remaining, though, and Atlanta, this is it. This is their last chance of being able to crack point A and make this drawable or winnable.
It really is. 20 seconds remaining. They do have a pulse bomb. Almost close to a bomb, but Toronto Defiant have got the blade, and Agilities is going to come up huge with it. The blade is used, comes out, swings through them. No Immortality field to save you. 2 down. The Toronto Defiant with Agilities leading the charge. They're going to find so many opportunities, and they're going to find their win here on Volskaya Industries. Very well played to them, considering this was the Atlanta Reigns map pick as well. And they are now going to lead this series 2-1.
Great stuff from Toronto. I love the adaptation that they had throughout that map, because at the start, they looked like the worst team. But once they figured out that they needed to duel Edison and push him away, force cooldowns, force the blinks, force the recalls, and get him out of the equation, they started to win. Agilities, the map opened up for him as soon as Edison was out of the equation. Gets that nice Dragon Blade towards the end. Had 14 Dragon Blade kills over the course of the map as well. And that's the Toronto Defiant, our 11th seed in North America, going 2-1 up over Atlanta.
Remember as well, the Atlanta Reign picked Toronto as well as their opponent. Like, they picked them so early on.
And they 3-0'd them 2 weeks ago.
Exactly. I mean, so much to play for here. The fact that Toronto Defiant are leading 2-1 is just absurd. But we've seen so many upsets, and we may not even see it stop here. We're going to find out, can the Toronto Defiant close it out? Well, don't go anywhere. It's coming straight after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Switch today and rank up to America's largest 5G network, T-Mobile.
Welcome back, everybody. You may be joining us for a bit of pivotal history here, as the number 11 seed is currently down one map, currently up one map against the Atlanta Reign. It's 2-1 in this series. Toronto Defiant could be doing the impossible.
Yeah, and Atlanta Reign have been a bit disappointing this season. Most people in their power rankings coming into 2020 had them as a top 4, top 5 team. Yep. And the only thing that they've really been able to do is be a gatekeeper for the lower teams. They have 3-0'd all of the teams that are lower than them in the standings or in our power rankings for that week. But they haven't really been able to beat teams above them. Now, even that role as the gatekeeper seems to be under threat, because the Atlanta Reign are on the verge now of losing to our 11th seed, the Toronto Defiant, as the number 2 seed coming into our Summer Showdown. Atlanta haven't won a series so far this entire year where they've lost a map, and now they've lost 2.
That's ridiculous. Such a ridiculous stat. They haven't won a series where they've lost a map in it. I mean...
Yep. They either 3-0 or they lose.
That is ridiculous.
And that's because they either dominate bottom teams or they just can't get the win against decent teams.
Well, we're heading...
That's what makes them the classic gatekeeper game.
Classic Rialto team, maybe? Yeah.
Classic Rialto team. I think it's a good pick, though, this map, Rialto. I mean, it's very much a Tracer, Widowmaker, or Tracer Ash kind of map. They could have gone Junkertown, obviously, but I think Rialto's another great pick for Atlanta to get them back in the series.
Yeah, funnily enough, the same reasons you would pick Tracer on this map, the same kind of... Well, not necessarily the same reasons I would see you pick Genji, because teams are playing it in a much more brawly style. But honestly, the way Agilities has been playing the Genji, sometimes he has been prioritizing flanking, trying to take a 1v1 at the backline, maybe trying to bring down Baby Bay, maybe trying to bring down one of the support squad out of position. So, Rialto, you would think would give the advantage to Atlanta Reign here, but then again, sometimes it's quite difficult to battle back, just mentally in the game, keeping your head in the game when you are one map away, I should say, from being eliminated from the tournament. You've got to remember this, our number 2 seed potentially going out here.
That would be devastating for the Atlanta Reign. They haven't had a great season so far.
Tell me who has that bracket, Josh?
To turn it around. Yeah, no one has that bracket. Come on, nobody has the Toronto Defiant going to the semi-finals. I simply don't believe it. Well, the Toronto Defiant so far have had a lot of success in shutting down Edison. And Edison starts out here on the Genji, which is unexpected. I would have expected him to play the Tracer for sure here on Rialto. But he starts out on Genji, getting a dash through to the high ground.
Oh, no.
Baby Bay, our first casualty.
Yep. Baby Bay a little bit too far forward there. Nevik's able to take him out. The Halt Accretion is good. Or pushed back for a moment. Gives Toronto a bit of time to reset here around this corner. They're going to hold on for now. As Agilities is trying to build up his blade. You can see him just tangoing up top. But Dogman has been given a lot of time to build up this application matrix. It's going to turn things around. It's almost double the percentage compared to his counterpart.
Talk about double the percentage as well, and that's Agilities at 60% of its blade compared to Edison's 30%. And Atlanta Reign's tanks are getting destroyed right now. An earlier Immortality field coming out from Dogman gives all of the advantage to the Toronto Defiant as they barrel forwards in Cruz's aggressive position.
Oh my
He catches Edison and sets Agilities up for a 3k blade.
Oh,
that's
you love to
nasty.
see it. That
Edison's still only at 60%.
So good. Yeah, Edison's struggling to find a value out of it, right? It's difficult because, I mean, the way we saw the Paris Eternal play it earlier today is the halts would come through by Bembest and Sparkle would dash all the way through them. Agilities is just very good, not finding necessarily the dashes through enemies, but just the shuriken damage over and over and over again. He's so good at building up these blades quickly. Real difference maker, I think. And Edison, you can tell how uncomfortable he is on the Genji here. Taken out again early. It's going to stop the push.
He might not play this role in Owl, like the desk was saying earlier, but he has had it in his wheelhouse in contenders, so it's unfortunate to see him so uncomfortable, especially when they have a star Genji player like us that sat on the bench.
Everybody Flux is ready.
Toronto popping so many ults here to hold on.
I mean, the Supercharger is going to force Atlanta back here, and that was good from Atlanta, but when you peek out like that, Logix is playing so well at this long sight line. Every time Baby Bay just peeks his head out, he gets taken off of his neck.
Brent, Agilities is about to catch up to Edison. Agility's second Dragon Blade to Edison's first.
Ridiculous. But this blade from
The
Edison.
defensive team just finding so much value being able to shut people down in these choke points.
All eyes are going to be on Edison, though, moving forwards now, because Gator's close to a supercharger. Edison has the blade. Edison's got the armor pack, despite the fact that it's faded now. We're going to see an opportunity. He has to make it work. They have to try and combo with a halt or anything. Now here comes the blade from Edison. One dash comes through, but he has to go to safety. He has to dash up, and Agilities has come out with his own blade. Baby falls. That's one pick for him, whereas Edison got 0 value. Now he forced out a couple of ultimates. It's hard. Still, Agilities messes up his dash there, actually. Collided into the ledge above him. That gives the Atlanta Reign now an opportunity to push forwards, especially with this supercharger. The damage is actually pretty immense, and it's going to force out an early immortality field from Kariv. He's going to try and keep his team alive, but it looks like the Atlanta Reign have found all the damage they need.
Great pick onto Agilities. Nice punish as well. Yeah, Agilities messed up his dash, but I think it was also a halt from Gator to even set that up in the first place. And Atlanta start to get the ball rolling. Only 20 seconds left. Yeah, Toronto can definitely still contest this. They've got a rally available too. It's going to be rally on both sides. It's Genji duel
Agilities might have to touch this one here. Luckily he has the armor, but unfortunately he was too far forward. He had to contest the point there, so he gets taken out. Punished for his hubris, and now Edison with the blade. 2 kills for him. And it's going to be the capture into point A. Atlanta Reign, it was looking shaky. They only had a couple of seconds to work with, but they made the best of it.
They certainly did. And these early punishes onto Agilities are the key for Atlanta Reign to win. It is so unusual that Edison is out here on the Genji, especially on a map where you can get huge value out of the Tracer. But he just couldn't get things working on Volskaya. Toronto was so good at being able to shut him down. Agility's ahead in terms of the ult charge once again, and Toronto have control over the high ground. High ground's so important on this stage of Rialto. That corner is really hard to crack if you're attacking.
Well, everybody's going to have the Bob soon, but so will Logix. The big thing is going to be these tank ultimates. If Hawk can find a good Gravitic Flux out, maybe if they force out the Immortality Field early, it's one of the keys to trying to crack this one open. See Baby Bay, he wants to try and go for it. Okay, Bob on the high ground, but Agility shuts him down. That was instantaneous. It's a lot of ults going to be traded here into close quarters. The Amplification Matrix is used by only one team, the Atlanta Reign. They're going to get no value out of it in the end. No kills to be found. None locked and calls at the end of the fight, but not before the Atlanta Reign have fallen. Not able to hold this one, and well, not able to push this, I should say. The Toronto Defiant, though, are going to be happy. They managed to hold on the staircase, which is one of the most important areas to hold in the game.
Oh, Edison's kind of popping off, though. He's up in the high ground there. Okay, eventually gets taken down. But he might have allowed his team free passage across this bridge and onto the payload once again. They're going to need to wait for the defensive players to reconnect with the rest of their team. They'll still have high ground control, but Atlanta won't get pressured as they approach. And sometimes that bridge can be really difficult to cross, actually. Especially when you're facing somebody with the hitscan prowess of Logix.
For a reason it's so hard
Edison
to push.
Blade.
Yeah, Edison coming close to the blade, but look at this preempted strike! Agilities, he dove in with the blade, but shut down immediately. The supercharger will not save them. Edison, so much work being put into them there. Slicing through the opposition and setting his team up for success.
Again, another shutdown on Agilities. If Atlanta can keep pulling this off and taking Agilities out of the fight, that opens up the space for Edison to do his work. Great Dragon Blade coming out from Edison, but an even nicer shutdown on the opposing Genji. Toronto Defiant, they are forcing out the clock here. Only a minute and a half left for Atlanta Reign to push, so it's a good defense, but they keep getting pushed further and further back.
Hard for them to make something work here, but they do have a minute 20, and they do have ultimates. Supercharger
and Matrix from the high ground. Yeah, this is actually looking pretty good. This is going to force the Defiant back, force out Immortality Field as well. Agilities went for a bit of a play, but he's behind them and taken out early.
Yep, Edison hunts him down and takes him out. Now that means Toronto, they have to play aggressive here. Not enough. Edison moving forwards. He wants more. Look at that, the dash. Oh my goodness. Okay, you know, maybe we weren't putting too much respect on the name of Edison, you know. He had Genji in his wheelhouse back in his Contenders days. We hadn't seen him play that much in Owl, but he's getting into the groove of it now. You can tell. That Shuriken aim was honestly just disgusting to look at. Yeah.
Some pretty even ults on both sides here. Gator's Supercharger is going to be matched by Kariv's Amp Matrix, and then the Toronto Defiant have a rally that gives them the slight edge in the fight.
So low.
Numlock dies though.
But Flux only catches one. Immortality Field is going to be keeping him alive. Numlock's so low here. The grass moving forward. The Atlanta Reign are taking a lot of space off the back of it. Rally going to be used but faded by Cruz. Edison now with the blade. He wants to close this one out once and for all. Agilities goes down, and it's going to be the capture now. With a tiny bit of time on the top, just to sprinkle it, a little bit of a treat for you. The Atlanta Reign, the important thing is that they did get all three all three checkpoints, I should say.
They definitely heated up towards the end of the map there. Great aggression from them. That's something that the Toronto Defiant have really been missing in this series. The ability to take a fight where they're ultimate disadvantaged and just force their will onto the opponent. Well, the Atlanta Reign do it incredibly well there. They find an opportunity onto Numlocked, get him a little bit weak, and then push with the health advantage. They don't have the ults, but they have the health. And so they use that to take position, to push in through the choke point, and apply a lot of pressure onto the Toronto squad. Honestly, considering how bad their point A attack was, to be able to complete with time left, even if it's only 8 seconds, that's
pretty good.
Very successful.
Yeah, I think Toronto are probably going to be kicking themselves here, because they had a lot of opportunities, but unfortunately Agility's dying at the wrong time, trying to get value with the blade, diving in. And realistically, a lot of this is going to be because the Atlanta Reign were very good at shutting him down. Gator with the holds, Fire with the shield bashes, enough crowd control to just put an end to Agility's tyranny.
And I want to point out and reiterate something that Custer mentioned in the pre-show as well. He said that one of the issues with Agilities, one of the reasons why he's so streaky, is that he doesn't tend to adapt in these games. He just continues playing hyper-aggressive even if he's getting shut down. And I think Custer said something like he just goes down on his sword. So he needs to make these adaptations. He knows that people are focusing on him right now, and Agilities needs to kind of temper the aggression somewhat.
Okay, that's a nice start. It's not going to buy too much time, but Agility's getting yoinked off the edge. I guess he didn't have the coach gun? I don't know, it's a weird one. But it means that the Defiant, they have to play back just to wait for their respawners. This is so aggressive by Atlanta.
I like it though. You've already seen in this series so far that Defiant are quite a slow, cautious team, so the more pressure you put on them, the better it'll go.
Oh, but Numlocked too far forward, and the Atlanta Reign, their aggression is paying off here. And this is buying so much time for them. You got to think about this. Think about where the Toronto Defiant were trying to defend. It was at the first kind of corner. Not even this one where you're seeing here. It was even further back. And the Atlanta Reign, the fact that they're holding so close, it's almost at their spawn. And even if they lose this team fight, they're going to have at least another opportunity to defend this with good positioning.
Toronto are going for a large wraparound play. You very rarely see this, but that's because you don't see teams defend that far forwards as well. So now they've completely switched sides.
Yeah, we're going to see Bob used by Atlanta Reign, disrupting them. The blade from Edison gets a lot of work done, actually. Forces the positioning all the way back. Beautifully done, and they hold strong even still. They did have to use a lot of ults, but Toronto Defiant, I mean, they're not really that close to some of theirs.
Yeah, Toronto are really struggling here. They can't break this forward hold. The wraparound play was cute, but at the end of the day, the attacking team still needs to take the initiative, and they just got wiped out by a nice play from Edison. Also, a much better immortality field from Dogman, who's also now going to knock down his Amp Matrix, pepper down Nevix, and force out another immortality field from Kariv.
Has to get used.
Toronto are getting slowed down, and they have to be so cautious here. Agility's still only at 80% of his blade, and 2 minutes has gone. This is such a far cry from how good he was in defense, because they just don't have the space for him to work.
Yeah, Atlanta realized that this is a great adaptation, I think, throughout this series. Is maybe they were giving Toronto a little bit too much space, and Atlanta right now using a supercharger. They get a kill out of it! How does that happen? Let's be honest.
Great halt.
The halt was there, but no fortify, nothing to stop that. Because it's going to be shaving off even more time now for Toronto to fight.
The thing is, though, Bren, it's 10 seconds for Numlock to respawn. It's 25 seconds for Kariv to get his immortality field back. So it's actually better for him to die.
Now the blade by Agility. He spent a long time trying to build this up. It better be good. Slashes come through, but no damage being done. In fact, Agility stunned up, pushed back, and the bob from Baby Bay is just doing so much consistent chipping damage from afar that they win the team fight out overwhelmingly.
Absolute dominance from Atlanta. And this is how they normally play against lower level teams. They show them no respect. They get in their face. They apply pressure all the time. So I love that they are now finally doing this in this series.
Still not
They've
over
got to
yet,
back off here. They've got to respect Garibs and Matrix, but they have another Blade. Edison with another Dragon Blade, and he has warmed up now. He's feeling himself on the Genji.
Don't want to count Toronto out just yet, but you are right. Edison, Blade, everybody. Flux on Hawk. Every single ultimate at their disposal. We're getting into the final fight now. It's a brutal one to try and take. Gravitic Flux into the back line. I believe it catches onto one player. Number one moving forward to Fortify. Edison, though, has the Blade, still not utilizing it. Logic's still going down. And he's trying to take out Bob here. Sort of priority on him would be good. Look at that by the Toronto Defiant. Whilst the distraction in the back line was occurring, the Blade and the Supercharger gets the job done. But the question is now, can they hold on while the overtime is ticking?
No ultimates for the Defiant, whereas Atlanta, they're going to have Bob, Supercharger, and they already have the Blade. If Atlanta want to defend, if they can get anybody close, then I think they win the fight. Okay. But Edison is there. Edison has just been able to touch, and he hasn't been punished for it.
And he has a Blade as well. Could be brutal right now for Toronto. Could be their hopes and dreams shattered away. The stun is there. But Edison is so clean. The dash, the resets, it all came right there for him in the nick of time. The Atlanta Reign getting that hold. And that is going to be a beautiful map finish for them. An astounding showcase of just adaptation, I think, from the Atlanta Reign, recognizing what they needed to do, and they have evened this series up when it was looking pretty poor for them. You got to consider the Toronto Defiant, they almost full held to the Atlanta Reign at point A.
They really did. We doubted them on the Rialto pick a little bit. We doubted them with Edison running Genji, but he warmed up so much throughout that map and ended up being dominant. Yeah. That's the kind of aggression and disrespect we'd love to see from Atlanta. I'm hyped now for this map 5. I didn't think we'd get here, but it's going to be exciting.
I mean, I said before we went live, Josh, you know, I was hoping that these games are going to be close, and they certainly delivered. Thankfully, it's going to be 2-2. We're going to find out what is the conclusion of this thrilling series. Will we see the underdog Toronto Defiant go forward into the tournament with the win, the massive upset, or will the Atlanta Reign shatter their hopes and dreams? Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to find out soon after the break.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Welcome back from the break, everybody, and yeah, we're coming to the conclusion here between the Toronto Defiant and, of course, the Atlanta Reign Map 5 scenario. And the map that we're going to be staging it all on is, of course, going to be Nepal.
I don't think many people saw us getting here. If Atlanta come out with the win, people are going to say, oh, of course Atlanta won. You know, they were playing against the Toronto Defiant. They've 3-0'd them 3 times so far this season. But when you look at the match itself, it's been close. There have been many opportunities for Atlanta to get knocked out of the Summer Showdown here in their first match.
Yeah, it's taken them a bit of time to come online, to heat up to a degree with the adaptations. But Atlanta now starting, at least at the tail end of Rialto, to play like the Atlanta Reign that we knew that they are capable of playing. I think Toronto now need to realistically come into this with a bit of a change of, not game plan because it has been working for them, but they need to reassess how they're coming into a lot of these engagements, because I think a lot of these fights were winnable, but Agilities hasn't changed up his playstyle often throughout this series, and sometimes he has been getting punished when he's been going for these big blade kills, these big blade plays.
Yeah. Bear in mind as well that the Atlanta Reign, so far in 2020, have not won a series where they dropped a map. Their only wins have been 3-0 wins over bottom-level teams. Now, you might say that the Toronto Defiant right now are a bottom-level team. They might be our 8th best team and still make it to the quarterfinals, but this would be a break of that trend. They're 2-2, they're in the 5th map. If Atlanta can win here, they have somewhat broken the curse of being able to win these scrappy series. They've just never been able to do it against teams in the middle of the pack or at the top of the league before.
I think Toronto Defiant coming into this are going to have a huge advantage, and funnily enough, we're going to see Agility is actually going to be playing the May, and it's a pretty common role for this section of Nepal and the village. Edison opting for the Genji, so a bit of a change of things here. The role you really expect of him, but see, Atlanta might be making some adjustments. Big rotation possibly around, because they do not want to be playing into this double shield for Rhino-Rissa.
Yeah, this is a very brawly comp. And Edison has to be worried, because if he goes in, he might get halted. He can just get whacked by the Reinhardt, which is...
turrets as well.
It creates a very... Yeah, and the turrets too, and the freeze. The fact that Reinhardt is in creates a very different dynamic. It means that Edison is less effective as a brawler, because he's got to be worried about just the raw damage coming out of the Reinhardt swing.
I really like this.
Which obviously is not there when you have a Rissa Sigma.
I really enjoy this strategy that Toronto are doing here. They get so much cleave, so much stopping power for any sort of Genji composition. And as long as they stay on the point and stay in control of it, they're in a good position to win. But that ult is beautiful. It forces out the Immortality Field. It's going to send out the Amplification Matrix. Bob going to be using the backline here, but not quite going to be hitting here. Numlocked with the Fire Strike. I mean, his Reinhardt is not a role that he was really known for, but at one point it was his best tank character, his best tank hero.
Yep. I think he might even say that it still is. He's had to play a lot of Orisa recently because that's the meta, but he really started off in the European scene where they were playing a lot of that GOATS composition way back when. And the Toronto Defiant, they win the first fight just essentially by a battle of attrition. Logic's getting heated up. Edison not able to do too much in the fight, but he has built up a blade. And that gives them an opportunity, an Amp Matrix or a Supercharger combined with this blade. Oh, Cruz, he has to be worried.
Oh, does Cruz not even react to that? That's so annoying, because that sound barrier was necessary. Still, they hold on, but the ultimates are coming out, and the ultimates are free. Because, of course, no sound barrier means the Gravitic Flux is there, and Edison didn't even have to use the blade. He can hold on to it. And a lot of this composition that Toronto are using relies on him holding on to the point in the first place.
They have got 77%, and they held on to all of their ultimates, so not too bad. I mean, all of them apart from the Symmetra ultimate, but they're essentially all of their important ultimates. Yep. But what a mistake from Cruz and Kariv. I mean, either Kariv needs to throw down the Immortality Field, but really Cruz just needs to realize that he's being pressured in the first place. Boop them away, activate speed and try and get out of there. Call to Kariv that he needs healing.
They just teleport.
But never mind, all right.
The Ice Wall pushes them back, and that's going to force Atlanta to go aggressive here. They have to make some plays work. Bob going to get cleaved down, eventually taken out, but Edison with the blade! Finding so much work here. 1 kill going
How
his
does
way.
Edison?
I don't know, Josh.
How does Edison get value when the whole of Toronto Defiant are sat inside a blizzard? They use the blizzard defensively
ridiculous.
so that Edison can't get value, and he still manages to find them and chop them into tiny little pieces.
Not only that, but I mean the sound barrier as well came
Yeah.
out. I mean, it is impressive how he was able to just find any sort of opening, even if it was the ultimates being forced out. Edison putting in significant work for them to win that team fight.
And they've broken the ult economy of the Toronto Defiant.
Career falling though. That's what happens when you take those teleporter engagements. It can be very risky because they are just feeding into the maw. It's Toronto Defiant getting chunked up here. Atlanta Rain, not even many ultimates really needed to be expended. They used, what, the Gravitic Flux, and that was it?
Yeah. It's hard for them to be able to get in here. They need to teleport onto the point because their composition only works when it's on the point. But they just keep getting damaged as they approach, and then it's so predictable, the pathing.
To the high ground, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a fake on the high ground and just speed boost to the point instead. But Edison has another blade here, and they have an Amp Matrix to push into because they've just fed
straight up going to the high ground. I don't know if I agree with this, but they want to go full steam ahead. The wall comes out, it's going to be blocking a lot of the damage, and it's going to split the map in half. Logix is popping off, the tracking is elite. Look at him go, shredding through opposition like a hot knife through butter. And that means that the flip is going to go to Toronto Defiant here with 99%. The overtime is going to trigger, but can anyone touch from Atlanta? Not the case. Round 1 going to Toronto Defiant with some fancy cheese strategies.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, we've seen it before. It's very good on Nepal Village. It might even be kind of the default best comp, which, you know, makes it not as cheesy as you might think, but the Toronto Defiant played that pretty well. A nice adaptation to go up onto the high ground, and they totally caught Atlanta off guard. They were not expecting them to just teleport straight into their face, and Edison couldn't clutch that one out with the Dragon Blade. This puts Atlanta Rain on the back foot for sure. They need to win the next 2 rounds back-to-back in order to go through to the semifinals, in order to keep their clean record against the worst teams, in order to stay as the gatekeepers of the Overwatch League in 2020.
We'll go back to the old tried and tested agilities on the Genji. Logix on the Widowmaker. Oh,
Kariv is
boy.
actually playing Zen here. So Kariv has good sightlines, but it's more of a poke comp. It's not as brawly. That means that Agilities needs to play less aggressive, otherwise he will die if he gets punished.
Attempt on the sidelines here, but the shots are coming through. Logix needs to try and find something. Hit a shot maybe? He's hunting for the Genji. Edison's found him, and that is a great pick-off for Edison. He avoided the Venomine. Look at this, he might even get the better of Agilities as well. He's just got onto him, the deflect comes out in the nick of time. There's a war occurring here in the front line though as well, and Griv, yeah, playing that Zen. Dangerous scenario. Gravitic Flux forced out. Okay, getting value out of it, even better. All right, Hawk falls, which means that Toronto have an opening. Nevix will follow up again, and that's a Discord Orb that Kariv is providing on the Zenyatta. So they are eventually going to be able to flip this point over in their favor.
That's nasty from Nevix. Finds an opportunity there, just decides instinctively that if he punishes the over-aggression from the Atlanta Rain with his Gravitic Flux, they'll be able to turn the fight, and they do. What a heads-up play, because otherwise, Toronto were totally out of that. They had been destroyed.
So much game sense to know that, you know, the Immortality Field wasn't going to stop it. Grapple hook is there. So Logix will survive. He almost got yoinked off the edge of the map, but Numlock too far forward, pressured out in the end. That was the Amplification Matrix shredding him. Kariv taking these off angles, but he has a Transcendence, but he's nowhere near his team to help them. It's all...
If Kariv takes off angles, I think you just straight up disrespect the Toronto Defiant and push them. There's no way that Toronto are going to win a brawl without their Brigitte. Kariv either has to be doing really a large amount of shield pressure from the front, or he has to be finding picks on off angles. Otherwise, they're just going to lose.
Side popped off here by Logix, giving them a bit of information to work with. That is a huge Gravitic Flux. With the Transcendence though, and he still has the Discord. Oh! Placed! Agilities goes down. Blade not getting what he was looking for, and again it's that over-aggression being punished. No change in playstyle from Agilities. Edison charging into it, leading his team into into the fray, and he gets, you know, paid off essentially off the back of it. The Blade coming up big.
Yeah. Big Blade from Edison, a counter Blade. They focused down Agilities really nicely. They burnt him through the last tiny bits of that Transcendence from Kariv, and Kariv's forced to go back over to the Brig. He's going to start back right at the beginning with 0% ult charge. But Toronto do have double tank ults to try and break this. Nevix with a huge Gravitic Flux does so much damage. Lifts Gator and Edison up in the air. And though Edison is trying to do his best, taking out Logix, I think this is going to be a win for the Toronto Defiant. It's very close, though.
Yeah, it's pretty traded evenly. They're trying to kill these stragglers finally. Nevix, he just gets into the fight and he's going to stop it.
Brent, Edison used Blade.
Wait, what?
Edison used Blade at the end there to try and turn it, because they're at 99% and it was a scrappy fight. But Edison was only on about 20 HP when he popped the Blade. A little bit ambitious with that Blade to try and just steal the second round away.
That's a Brenji Blade. I mean, that's,
yeah, that is a Brenji Blade.
That's using your own with 20 health, trying to get that play of the game. But I can respect the effort, but the timing not there. And Agility's now with a Blade, and suddenly the ult advantage is flipped over. Agility's very close, 99% in counting. He has to play a little bit far back. Gravitic Flux used now aggressively. Atlanta Reign, they want to try and turn this fight around. Could be final fight territory for them. Finding an opening here. Agilities has to use the Blade. One target, a whip shot just off with a stun. The shield bash, that was perfect by Fire. He found it. Great timing. Atlanta Reign have gained advantage here as they take positioning onto the point, flipping it over. Toronto, they have to touch this. They have to get close.
They
need
to
do a touch. Oh my
touch.
goodness. Okay, Nevix just about gets his wee little toe on the corner. Couple of opportunities here, so it's going to start to flip this over, but again, it's going to be that Edison? Okay, Edison just dumps his body onto the point to flip it over instead, but pays with his life. That could be a critical mistake, especially with Agilities popping off like this. This is such a scrappy finale.
It really is, but what a way to lose that round it would have been if Atlanta just stole the point away from them. Nevix just within the distance required to touch, and this is going to be the final fight. Edison only at 74% of his ultimate. They need that ult to be able to turn things.
Amplification Matrix traded out by both these players, both these teams. The Bob sent that one to the point just to contest it, keep them away from it. Logix with the headshots. Logix with the damage that he's pumping in. His Bob is doing all the work in the world right now. And Edison, poor Edison, diving into the fray, trying to make it work. But the Toronto Defiant will not be denied. They will not be stopped in their time of need. And they will be moving into the semi-finals. What an upset and what a win.
What an unbelievable upset.
Wow.
The Toronto Defiant, the 11th seed. That is monstrous. And Atlanta Reign continue their trend of losing every single series in 2020 where they lose a single map. They just cannot get the wins. As soon as it becomes close, they fall to pieces. The amount of mistakes in that final round were mind-blowing from the Atlanta Reign.
I
Especially considering that they dominated on Rialto. What a way to go out.
The Blade failing, I think losing that initial round on Village was the nail in the coffin. For this team, because it's apparent, right, just looking at the history of this team, that when they lose maps, they just can't seem to close out series, even when it goes to map 5. They have a problem with closing out series, and as soon as they lose that round, I think they got in their own heads a little bit with it. They realized that, okay, they start having to take more risks. Edison, for example, the Blades they used, the failure to capitalize, using his Blade on 20 HP at the end in that final round.
Yep.
But I don't want to take away from Toronto Defiant here. They are moving forward to the semi-finals. An upset where we thought it wasn't going to happen. I'm actually so pleased for the Toronto Defiant that they're moving forward here. The 11th seed, Joss. This is ridiculous.
That is monstrous. I mean, they only just avoided having to play to get into the tournament in the first place. They were the 11th out of 13. 11 out of 13 seed. And they just get back into it. And of course, our player of the match, it has to be Agilities. Although Logix had his moments in various maps, Agilities was the guy that was always there with the Dragon Blades turning the fights. He did such a good job when it came to Volskaya of being able to pressure away Edison. And I think that he is the major reason that the Toronto Defiant have gone so far in this tournament is because Agilities can play the Genji again.
I completely agree. I think having Agilities on his best hero is opening up Young Brady, as he's known. I don't know why I keep calling him Young Brady, but why not? You know, he deserves it.
He's young and his name's
That's
Brady.
true. I mean, it's all the reasoning I need, Josh. And I cannot believe I'm seeing Toronto in the semi-finals. What an upset. This is crazy. If you have a bracket that is not broken right now, if you used the bracket maker earlier, I want to see it. I mean, I'm going to be checking the leaderboards after this win.
There isn't one.
There's
no way.
There
I
might
don't
be
believe
one.
it.
I believe that somebody out there might have predicted this. One of the Toronto fans, maybe a fan of Agilities, maybe thought they could go all the way. I don't know. Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. Yeah.
That is absolutely nuts. That's probably the largest upset that we've... Is that the largest upset we've had
I mean,
so
it's
far
pretty
in this
big.
bracket?
11 versus
There's been
number
a
2
lot of-
seed.
Yeah, there's been a lot of big upsets though yesterday. I mean, teams like the LA Valiant were supposed... I mean, Toronto Defiant has definitely been the largest bracket buster.
Yeah.
When you consider that they were supposed to be going up against the Valiant, who, performed so well in the Tracer Ash compositions previously, and then they're going up against Atlanta. They have broken more brackets than any other team. It's got to be said. That's incredible. They've got tough games ahead of them too. This side of the... this side of the bracket, they're going to be going up against like the Philadelphia Fusion or the Houston Outlaws, which is... It's going to be tough, but Toronto have shown grit so far to be able to pull that one out in a 5-map series.
How far can they go?
God, what a game.
I mean, it's just astounding. I mean, I was hoping it was going to be close. They made it close, and they ran away with it in the end. It is amazing, amazing to see. But now we're going to hear straight from Logic's What's Up. Zoe, take it away. You got a little interview for us.
I do indeed. Thank you so much, guys. Mr. Logic's joining us. Congratulations on a huge W.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, let's walk us through your thought process right here. You guys were the number 11th seed, and you just took down the number 2. How are we feeling about this?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, coming in as a lower seed again. Obviously, May Media was very rough for us. But beating our opponent last night, and then obviously beating Atlanta now, it feels extremely good. Especially with our, I guess, pretty poor season standing. Obviously, getting at least 1 victory added to our score is a great feeling. So let's try and keep that going.
I bet. Now, Logix, if we're looking at the second half there, what kind of adjustments did you guys need to make to take down the Atlanta Reign? What did you guys recognize as your win condition heading into that second half?
I think mostly we were trying to calm ourselves down. I think a lot of the time with our team, a lot of the issues rely on communication. So people get a little bit panicky, people maybe get not as confident. It was basically just like a reminder, guys, like we're playing well. I think especially in this meta, we must feel very comfortable. I think especially having Brady on Genji, Agilities on Genji is like a very big factor for us, doing a lot better than we previously did. So yeah, we're just focusing ourselves right now, and we're confident going into any game.
Did you guys feel like the key to victory against the Atlanta Reign was in part shutting down Edison, or at least keep him occupied via duels of sorts?
I wouldn't say particularly Edison. I think in any matchup where we play Genji Ashe and they play Tracer Ashe, obviously I think the Genji, the ultimate fights with Genji are a lot stronger. The bait coming is like a really clutch ultimate, but the overall pressure that a Tracer puts on a team is a lot higher. So it's basically coming down to me complaining to my supports to get an armor pack, trying to hit her with a few shots. So yeah, mostly comes down to that, trying to mark her, trying to deal with her a little bit on the side, and then just focusing on the main fight.
Well, and you, sir, popped off left and right on more than just one occasion, so it was an absolute beauty to witness. Now, the big question, of course, is can you guys do it again? Heading into the semifinals, you will either face the Outlaws or the Fusion. Which one of them would be preferred and why?
I mean, I'd probably say the Outlaws, if I'm being completely honest. I think that's very clearly the easier game. By no means are they a bad team, but I think Philadelphia Fusion looks extremely strong. So we'll see what comes from that.
Well, we'll see what the end result will be. So far, everyone's bracket have been busted. How is yours looking at the moment?
My bracket, obviously, I had us winning every game so far, so my bracket's been looking good. Definitely, I mean, the first game was a lot of upsets. I think a lot of people's bracket got messed up because we won as well. Sorry for that, but also not really. So looking forward to upsetting a couple more brackets tomorrow.
Well, I can't wait to actually light mine on fire. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. Thank you so much for joining us here for a quick chat.
All right, thank you very much for having me.
Now we're heading into a very quick break, and afterwards we are back with a special treat, an appetizer, if you will. We're going to have Super facing off against one of our producers. There's been a lot of talking coming into this 1v1, but let's see who's actually also walking the walk. And after that appetizer, a very high-skilled game played by our producer, we of course will be heading into the San Francisco Shock and the Washington Justice, yet another quarterfinal to witness. So don't go anywhere.